Today we are talking about very interesting topic in our Demystifying Digital series, and this is blockchain. Blockchain is probably the most mystified technology of the decade. It's easy to explain because all the close relation to the cryptocurrencies, ICOs, and all the other hypes we experienced over the course of last years. But we intentionally decided to not touch these matters. It's not because the crypto is not interesting. It's rather opposite. But I do believe that there are already enough gurus and real experts discussing the crypto topics. What we would like to focus on really is how the blockchain as a technology can enable new business models, new competitive advantages, or better internal efficiencies for enterprises and for startups, including in traditional, if not conservative, verticals. So, what is the practical application of the blockchain in the real life business these days? And if there is a role for the blockchain in the enterprise technologies landscape. And in order to discuss that, we invited Pavel Kravchenko, founder and chief executive officer of a distributed lab. The software company whose core expertise is actually blockchain and the solutions and the platforms around blockchain. And we do believe that Pavel is exactly the right person to discuss this question.
Thanks, Alexander. Hello, everyone. So yes, indeed, the topic of blockchain is very kind of overhyped, mystified a lot, and there is no consensus among many people what blockchain is. So I usually joke, like if you put in the room 10 blockchain experts, they wouldn't even agree on definition of blockchain. So that's like an interesting situation, but I guess it happens within, like in any industry, in the beginning. And blockchain industry is like very new. So luckily we'll have better situation in like 5 years or so. So today we're going to review some cases and classification, of blockchain cases, so we can see how it could add value to business. So my name is Pavel Kravchenko. I'm a co-founder of Distributed Lab and currently CEO. My background is cryptography. I've got PhD degree in 2012, and before that I was master in cryptography and started to work in this space in 2006. So my blockchain career actually started 7 years ago in California. I joined Stellar as a cryptographer. And since then, my life has changed dramatically. Before that, I also worked as a security developer, building secure backends for banks and for ERP systems. But blockchain was kind of a very interesting experience. So I co-founded Distributed Lab also almost 7 years ago. Now we 75 team members. We have projects all around the world. We have product. We've got investments in our company twice from high net worth individuals. And we have another joint venture in which we received investments 3 times. So we've been quite active in the space, winning some hackathons, participating in conferences, organizing our own events. And I've been in 60 countries, literally, for blockchain activities. We also published 5 books. 3 of them are about blockchain as a technology. It's for students, for universities. It's officially approved in Ukraine as a textbook. Then another one is about our mission to build financial internet. So the book explains how it could be done. And another book is about how to build fintech platforms. It has a lot of, basically a blueprint of building platforms, unifying common functionality. So what is blockchain? And again, this question is controversial a little bit because some people define blockchain as something on which Bitcoin or Ethereum is running. Some say it's like general, like it's a technology. Some people say blockchain is something that I have in my system or whatever. So, and because media confuses all these definitions, we have many myths about blockchain. Like blockchain has to have its own currency, for example, or that blockchain requires a lot of energy, or that blockchain needs some mining, and so on and so on. So it's immutable or it's unhackable or things like that. And these are myths, and we will cover some of them during the topic. But for this presentation, we looking at blockchain from an enterprise perspective, looking how we can apply methods and tools that were invented by scientists like for decades, and then used in Bitcoin as the first decentralized financial system, and Ethereum and other systems. And we can use the same methods to apply them for real business problems. And for business, basically, blockchain is a technology for data protection, for data synchronization, and automation of, let's say, contracts, financial contracts. That would be the best definition of like where to, like for which tasks to use blockchain and what it is. And for the problems that are solved, we can apply them again to real world problems. And these are elimination of trust to the system administrator, even from the owner of the system, not just from the user, but from the owner. Then we can apply these techniques to strong authentication, access control, very needed for a lot of secure systems. We can ensure immutability of transactions. Again, it's not just plugging in blockchain and that's it, but doing some things, building the whole system, doing trustless audit or real-time audit, and eliminating intermediaries where it's where it makes sense. Not everywhere. So I also hear a lot of thoughts like blockchain will eliminate banks, will eliminate all intermediaries, and this or that. But those that store data and do some data and make money on data transmission, those will be eliminated. The rest maybe not. It's a topic of a separate presentation. So there are a few ways to use blockchain in enterprise, and these ways they kind of they come like align them from the simplest and cheapest to the most expensive and hardest. For example, we can use blockchain as timestamping system, which is more or less simple task. You have certain data, you need to make sure it existed at a certain moment in the past and it wasn't changed. So, and it's the most easiest way of using blockchain. In that case, it will be used like on the side. The second is more complicated, is when you use blockchain to support your company's internal database to make it secure. That obviously requires redesigning the internal IT infrastructure, but it doesn't change the way users look at the system, and many business processes also not affected. Then the third way is when you use blockchain to actually fulfill its potential, like in, I would say 60%, and allow secure real-time synchronization between multiple companies. For example, in some consortium, like within a payment system, between banks, or for the registry, like state registry or something like that. And the fourth way is to use blockchain at like 100%. In that case, it will be a foundation for like global secure ecosystem for accounting and trading. And that's the most promising eventually. Piece will unleash a lot of wealth and create new business models. But again, all these ways, they make sense. It's much easier to start from the first one and move towards the last.
can you still see cases when blockchain is being used by the enterprises where it's not needed? I mean, the reason I'm asking this question is because what we've seen within the last 2, 3, 5 years is that many enterprises, they started playing with the blockchain. Many startups, they were trying to build some new business models using blockchain. And in reality, majority of those attempts, they failed. And one of the reasons in my eyes was that the companies that are trying to use blockchain without really understanding its meaning and the value for the particular business model. And it caused a certain dissatisfaction on the market and on the technology world. And we all know multiple cases when totally useless startups, for example, just to increase the perceived value of what they're doing, they were declaring that their system is built on a blockchain, and that was good for their valuation, but in reality led to nothing in terms of real outcome for their business and their clients of having these applications built on the blockchain. Is this something that's still happening, or the market and the technology and understanding among the business leaders of what the blockchain is evolved enough to say, okay, here we really need a blockchain and here we don't need it?
It is still happening. Less than in 2017, there was a peak of inflated expectations. The main problem is that people they have a small car, then they take a rocket engine, or they say, we will build a rocket engine and put in that small car and let it drive. It will drive faster. So not 50 kilometers per hour, but 5,000 kilometers per hour. And obviously it doesn't make any sense because, yeah. So most companies, they tried to transform their internal database, but using methods that are needed to build the global system. So like they said, we have an asset in our company. Let's put it on Ethereum or Bitcoin. Let's move all our activities to public chain. And obviously then they faced all these fees and problems and security issues of the global public ecosystem for their small use case. What's worse, you've seen that as well, that most companies in 2017 tried to issue tokens for their businesses. Like they have a network of car washes, and let's issue a token for a car wash, which doesn't make any sense. And just for the sake of having a token and having an ICO. And these cases have nothing to do with like business applications. So it was just because of malicious intentions, one thing, because of stupidity, because of just I don't know, people are experimenting with technology, you naturally have mistakes. So all these ways contributed to the situation. But definitely, I mean, some attempts that were rational, helped to improve the technology and helped to kind of shape the expectations of stakeholders.
Right, I see. It's interesting that the moment I asked this question, that there is a similar question was asked in the Q&A of the webinar. So this is a question from Arnaud. It's probably maybe a little more specific than mine. So the question was, do you have some anti-pattern in mind where it comes to use cases that have been built on top of the blockchain where it was not needed? So just a very short, your favorite anti-pattern for using the blockchain.
My favorite was when they wanted to implement blockchain, they hired smart contract developers. That's like the road to failure immediately. So it doesn't matter what you do. It's like saying I have a big port next to me. Yeah. And in order to solve the problem with global trade, efficiency of trade finance, they hired a smart contract developer. So yeah, they should have hired and not an engineer, the product owner with the relevant experience who can define the problem, the technical tasks and business terms, and then move on and build security model and so on and so forth. So this is just the common way to mistake. Then the second is like trying to issue a token for a business, for normal business that has nothing to do with building an ecosystem or so.
The interesting thing about the first anti-pattern is that actually it just confirms there's yet another confirmation of the situation when companies they put technology before the business effectively.
Yep.
And actually, it's not a blockchain specific. It's happening everywhere, right? So I spent enormous time within the last several years when my clients come in and say, look, we need a solution on artificial intelligence or machine learning. And I say, look, to the extent I know this technology, you wouldn't be able to benefit simply because you don't have data to work with. So maybe in several years, it makes perfect sense. Now it has 0 sense. So you put the technology way ahead of the actual need and your capability of the organization and the need of your clients. So it's good as an experiment, as an R&D exercise to play with, but it makes 0 sense from a business standpoint.
Yeah, okay, let's review the first system, like when we use blockchain as timestamping. So the problem that is out there is that for any digital system, the administrator can change the data and the owner or users will not know about that. This is possible right now. And it's like when I stay in the hotel and basically the hotel staff has access to my room. So I cannot prevent that. They have the keys, they have access to my safe because they know the recovery access and so on and so forth. So for digital systems, it's even worse. You cannot really trace it efficiently. So one solution, it's just one piece of the bigger picture, but it solves this piece, is adding a control mechanism of what's going on, which cannot be altered or deleted or something like that. And it works in a way that you take a snapshot of data. For technical people, it's called hashing. And you regularly publish into some blockchain that cannot be altered easily. And it's cheap to add, relatively cheap to add, but almost impossible to delete. So applications could be for ERP systems in which documents should not be deleted or changed. Some banking systems that store financial contracts. So again, somebody cannot manipulate who agreed what. Some correspondence like messaging, supply chains, voting results. And applying blockchain in that way, in the simplest case could cost from 10,000 euro and 1 month, plus cost of transactions in that blockchain that you are using. And you can build your own one if you have enough participants to prevent it from altering. In that case, the simplest case means that you just, for example, every day you take the full snapshot of your database and hash it, and that's it. So nothing, you don't need to change your existing system. Nothing special. You don't need to change the procedures. What you need to do is another a web interface to verify that this hashes fit. So that's it. We had the case for which it is we apply this technology. It's more complicated than that. It's not just hashing. It's actually tracking signatures and tracking roles. So potentially it's much bigger. But the first launch with these documents costed us 30K and 2 months. So we've done it for oil and gas company. It's our client in UAE, and they were asking for the system like Oracle Aconex, which is the enterprise system for planning of construction projects, and they needed alternative system, more like better, faster, nicer, and more secure, which they also plan to resell in the future. So in that case, we add these hashes and signatures in the blockchain that's maintained by a few parties, and the system checks that 3 hashes fit on the document, in the system, and in the blockchain. So if they fit, everything's good. If something doesn't fit, that somewhere is an error. So the nuance of this approach is that the system doesn't show what has been changed. What exactly? It might be a small symbol, a small number, but it shows in which piece and basically when in the past. So that's what it helps. It doesn't prevent, but it helps to track.
I, as a business, I do have a corporate system. So I have my CRM system, or I have ERP system, or whatever the core system I have in the company. And for whatever reason, I want to add this timestamping feature with a blockchain on top of it. But definitely in this case, the last thing I want is to actually rebuild my ERP or spend a fortune in integration, which is sometimes happening.
Yep.
So is that like really quick and cheap for the company to build this functionality on top without really touching your existing systems landscape? So for example, because this is something that beautifully promotes, for example, many solutions on the robotics process automation, because to orchestrate your data and business processes, in many cases, you don't need to touch existing systems. You're just building something off top. And your existing systems, often they have no idea whatsoever that you are manipulating the data and the processes orchestrating there. Is that the case with this timestamping feature for the document validation, for example?
You can apply it to existing system without change. You can do, as I mentioned, connect to some APIs, hash snapshot of database, and that's it. For the better security, you need eventually to rebuild, and there will be systems that will be like a new ERP. And so, for example, for that task, we worked with like Oracle systems and SAP systems. And in Ukraine, we also had a case for like production plant where they used the local ERP. That's kind of, in each case, there is a different level of integration, different level of costs, but the principles are the same. The second case that I want to outline is like voting by shareholders. It also has different levels of kind of implementation. You can implement it in a lightweight or like fully. So I'll try to comment on that. So for that, we have a few clients. And one is, we worked with central depositories of some countries. I cannot tell which for now. And the second client is public, is like a political party in Ukraine. The solution operational for a year and a half already. They have the infrastructure that counts votes on blockchain and has some basic audit possibilities. And again, the problem is that system administrator can change results, and in order to prevent that and add trust, right, of the voter to the system, you need to have certain tools, and this tool is in the blockchain. And the solution is that basically you can create a system that protects anonymity, but also allows you to ensure that your vote has been counted correctly. So in an ultimate case, the system allows to vote for anyone who was like pre-registered, so has some digital identity. Then basically each voter or shareholder can verify that their vote has been counted correctly. That's very important. They can do it themselves. Then each shareholder can verify the results of the whole vote, so they can count themselves. They don't no need in counting office. And it's impossible to review who voted how.